Hello, my name is Brant Hunt. Today is the fourth day of May, 2022, that is. And my YouTube channel is Discerning What is True. And what I want to talk to you, what we need to understand about multinational corporations, how the government itself is no longer what we call the true power. The multinational corporations actually rule the planet. In other words, it's another tier above government. I remember being in my political science international studies class in the 80s, and I remember that my professor was mentioning there was there was six countries that actually were still more money-wise powerful, had not been quote unquote seduced in the reins of multinational corporations. And that was basically where the United States was number one, and I'm sure there was France and Germany were the other few, and there were only a few countries. The rest of the countries were actually basically been bought out. They were bought out. And so since those days, I don't think there's anything now taking place that there's any government actually it rules even their own people, even though that is wrong. Actually, when you think about who should rule, who should rule anyone? Why would a government need to rule? Why do we have government? You see, well, we need government because they have to do right and wrong. No, we don't. That's a lie. Most people need to wake up and smell the coffee, folks. We didn't have government thousands and thousands and thousands of years before this. Are you aware of that? So why do we need to have someone lord over me? Why do I have to have somebody do this? So here's the deal. So the government itself is actually working on behalf of the multinational corporations. And a lot of these multinational corporations are basically, Amazon, that's one of them. There's another one called Microsoft. There's another one called Apple. And I'm sure some of the oil companies are also not Apple, Exxon Mobil oil companies have already seduced everybody. So they just do what they want to do. And they buy off politicians in order to make it, what they try to do is make it legitimate, but in reality, it is illegitimate. It's wrong. So if there's no truth in it, if we want this world to change, if there's no truth in it at all, it's a lie. It's a fiction. And what they've done simply is they've seduced the politicians. They've bought them off. In fact, what they've done, that's why I don't vote, folks. You're a knucklehead to vote. I'm serious. Because what you're saying simply is, I like to be ruled by somebody else. I like authority. I want people to rule over me. I just love to be told what to do. I just want to live in that type of world. Just take care of me, daddy government. Take care of me. It's just that people they don't want to see. They don't want to see what's going on. They're creating their own hell. They're creating it right now. And the strongest word in the English language I know of is no. N-O. And so when I'm going back to the campaign finances, we studied this back 40 years ago, folks. This is in the 80s. That the politicians, we looked at how there's two classes I want to talk about. How companies come in and quote unquote buy a politician off. They choose what they want. They find out it simply is he's quote unquote easy to be manipulated and put in office. They're given money. There's no really what we call, it's done out in open now. You give such and such. You're going to give so much money. Yes, maybe $1 million, whatever it is, dollars for a campaign, depending on what candidate you want in office. And it says who they do. It says what they do. It tells you the corporation such and such, Now, funny thing is Walmart is just recently gone on the stock market. In the past, it had not been on the stock market. It had actually been a privately owned family company. And that I don't know why they did this. I'll have to speculate on. But the Walton family, which are three children, the old man has passed away, and so there are three children, and I think there's one daughter and two sons from him. And somehow they've done the whole deal with the stock market. Now, with a multinational corporation like Walmart, is able to get away with all kinds of things. Like, for example, what did we fought for over 100 years ago when the unions did what they did? 40 hours a week at the most, having a week in off, Saturday and Sunday. People would work an 8-hour deal for 5 days, which was easier on the body. That meant simply as you divide that, 1/3 of your life is working, the other 2/3 are either in bed or at home. Okay. But they chose to go to what they call a 10-hour deal. So you have all 3 days. So now you're working 2 hours extra, such and such, da 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 da. And now no one can find a 40-hour week, you see, only those at the top. And so they've already eliminated the poor, and they're actually now eliminating the middle class. That's what they're doing. And they've allowed this. And so all this work they've done over 100 years ago for not only for working such and such, couldn't have children working, da 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 da, but also that companies would actually provide for their health insurance for their employees. And that doesn't take place with Walmart. They don't do that. They push that on to the government. In other words, what the Walmart or others have done, it could be ExxonMobil, whoever it is out there, probably like Amazon more of that. Basically, it's just like, I don't know if ExxonMobil, let's take that back. But we look at Amazon and Walmart, they don't pay their people enough to even to be able to afford insurance, much less to even live. So they pass the buck to the government and says, you take care of them. You see, that's why all this money is given to the government. It's that simple. So how do you destroy what we call, if I call it anything, government itself is no longer at the top tier, folks. It's the corporations. It's the multinational corporations call the shots because they buy the politicians off. So how do you destroy the multinational corporations? I think one of the things you have to examine simply is that it's going to have to be a completely different way of living. I think that the whole idea simply is that we go to a grocery store or go something else. We're just going to have to go back to what we call exchanging, bartering, working together, neighbors. Here, I've got a fruit tree. I produce grapes or oranges or whatever, and I trade that for you if you got cherries. That's the only way I see how they destroy these corporations. You basically destroy them with money. I know that some people have complained about Coca-Cola, wanting them to go back to their glass containers. We haven't really actually evolved, folks. We have actually gotten worse. In my lifetime, everything that pretty much was made was either put in a metal container or it was put in a glass. Glass was by far the best way of actually doing something. And then you would actually have, if it was any type of precious items, it would be a darkened glass. It would be a glass that basically the sun could not penetrate into it and get warm. It would cause damage to the product. And when we bought Coca-Cola back then, the Coca-Cola itself was simply as you recycle the bottles. We don't recycle bottles anymore, folks, in that regard. And what they would do simply is now this is how they do this. They cut overhead. You would have in your own town, like here in Aiken, it had its own Coca-Cola bottling company. So they made a profit even back then in the 50s and 60s and 70s. They made profit. They always did. But they wanted more, you see. So what happened with Coca-Cola simply is they closed their local bottling plants. And then they do the mass bottling place somewhere else. And it's all plastic. So So no one could see. We would always, what we do, we would return our bottles back to the grocery store. And people think they laugh at this, but in reality, simply is that was more productive. That was more economically, not economic, well, actually economically feasible for them, and also environmentally far more advantageous to what's being taught today. All this stuff out here is being promoted like, oh, you got a bicycle now. And it's, well, it's an electric bike. Or you have these scooters, such and such. It's electric scooters, you see. They paint this whole thing green when reality simply is it actually we've gotten worse. It's far worse. And the only way is simply is the whole thing has got to collapse. Every bit of it has to collapse. The whole financial thing has to collapse. Economically, all that has to collapse in order for us to create a new world. It has to work that way, folks. I'm sorry to tell you that. We can't keep going on in this particular monkey way of living. It's not even natural. It goes against our nature, you see. So this is why there are people who have sent me things. Well, I write my congressman such as we need to get them to such and such change. I don't think change ever happens that way, because they're like basically what I would say. They put up their finger and which way does the wind blow? And they say, oh, okay, maybe we should do something for the quote unquote citizens here. But it's always a loophole. It never really actually solves the problem. It just allows them, the multinational corporation, to go around it again. It's done that way all the time, folks. And the sad thing is that we believe in these people when reality, if we didn't believe in them, everything would collapse. Everything would collapse, folks. So your point out here, I get these arguments from people like, these people are still in the system, folks. They keep watching Fox News or they watch CNBC. And until you get off that stinking way of looking at things through those eyes that tell you what to believe, you're not going to grow. You're not going to understand what's going on. And you're going to be left in dust because you didn't take the initiative to learn it on your own. And so they're arguing about simply as Republicans need to do this and that, such and such. Well, folks, the Republicans have actually had the House, Senate, and at one time the presidency. But did they do anything? No. So what's the point? What's the point? The same way with the Democrats. They're all actors, folks. They're all actors. You see? And why this is a grinding, this is what happens simply is this machine that we live in, this system is like, if you can go back in the olden days when they used to quote unquote grind up wheat or grits or corn into grits, they would have a wheel, and that wheel was a stone wheel. And that's what's happening to people. We're the corn, or we are the wheat on the floor, the threshing floor, so to speak, and we are being ground to bits. That's what's happening. Because no one honors you. No one respects you. The corporations could care less about you. And so what's taking place is that people are no longer living as long as they used to. Why are young people having heart attacks at 20 years old? Why is that happening? So my thinking simply is all this needs to be going, the focus should be moving to a situation, and young people, hopefully this is your opportunity. The older people are not aware of this, are going to stick into the game. But unless you actually decide to actually grow your own food and be more independent than ever before, then you are missing the boat, you see, because that's how you're going to have to destroy them. And the only way I know how to do that simply is to own land. And so I would recommend that you look into a gentleman. His name is Christopher Hauser. Hauser, on YouTube. And you need to understand what they're doing to you. You need to understand why they use your own trust for your credit in order for you to have a credit card, and then claim that you owe them, when in reality you don't owe them anything. You also need to look in what we call the land patent in order for you not to no longer be charged property tax by Ron Gibson. It's a PDF file. It's out there. Just look it up. Land patent by Ron Gibson. I'm not going to do the work for you. You got to do the work. I'm just giving you the information here for you to do what you need to do. And if you're not brave enough to do that, maybe, or have the courage to do that, then maybe just move on, because you're not basically saying you want to know the truth. And so you'll continue to be a slave. But some of us are tired of the game, because that's what it is. It is a game. And it's based upon fictional. It's not true. It's a lie. So this is all I'm going to share with you. I want to just make it very quick here, because simply multinational corporations are doing this. Can the earth survive? Of course the earth can survive. That's not the point. People say, well, I want to help Mother Earth, such and such. Yeah, but my point simply is you need to help yourself. You need to be selfish and actually take care of yourself. See, so the whole idea when I said about Coca-Cola, when they went to plastic, they actually had people actually wrote into them, and I mean, it was a completely deal that them simply say, we don't like this, we want glass back, and they just thumbed their nails up and said, who cares? We're going to continue to do what we want to do. And when you see that type of attitude, folks, it's characteristic of these people who run these companies. They think they're gods. They think they're gods. And it's time to bring them down. Okay? It's time to bring them down. And if you don't have the guts, get out of the way. Because there are others out here are going to do something about it. You see, enough is enough. And those that don't, get out of my way. I don't want anything to do with you. Because you don't have the courage to stand up for yourself, much less for your own children in the future. The message is hard, but it's intended to be hard, because it's time for us to rise up and say no more. And not only that, we use not only our voice and telling the truth, which is what your throat chakra is all about, you also move in a different direction and say, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm turning the other side and moving on in a different direction. I don't need you anymore. That's why the medical system is going to fall. That's why those in the area of the court systems, they're going to fall. This whole thing is going to fall. The whole apparatus that's kept us in slavery is going to fall. The veil is being shown right now. Open your eyes and see. Do not be a fool. And if you're not, move out of my way. I don't want nothing to do with you. Because you don't have the courage to stand. You don't have that understanding of what's going on in front of you. Part of me simply is my Aries. Aries don't play games, folks. That's what I am. I tell you the truth. It's up to you to pick it up or not. I spent countless hours in doing videos and sharing with people here. It's up to you to pick up the ball. I've done my job. I've sown the seeds of truth. And someone would say, well, you're belligerent here, aren't you? Well, desperate times that we're in means desperately raising our voices and saying no. Because we're in a desperate situation here, folks. If you look around you, they're warning you what they're going to do. No, we're not going to live in fear. because they've given us a quote unquote a warning system, and we need to be aware of that. It's just like just like a radar system. They've spoken, and they're going to say what they're going to do because these people are empty inside. They have no soul or spirit in them. They're gone. And only those of us who are alive spiritually are the ones who are going to make it. Truly are only ones who are going to make it. We are our own saviors. We live for truth. And our lives demonstrate that. Have a great day. May you glean the wisdom what I've shared with you today and take it and throw out what is false in whatever you see. Ask me questions if you dare. Take care.